Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Coming up this afternoon, Media Foundation for West Africa takes on President Akufo-Addo on his poster on cash for seat probe by Parliament. Get Fund contractors give President Akufo-Addo sharp response on not being paid by his claims a chunk of contractors have been paid. Accra High Court resumes hearing on the NCA hearing device. In business, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers COPEC asked Energy Minister to resign or be sacked for not having any solution to stabilize prices at the local pumps. And on international front, U.S. President Donald Trump's view on Mexico border wall have evolved, says his Chief of Staff, John Kelly. We have details of these stories and many more lined up. Let's start with our stories now. And the Media Foundation for West Africa has accused President Akufo-Addo of devaluing the work of the Cash for Seat Committee with his attempts to dismiss the issue. President Akufo-Addo vehemently dismissed corruption allegations against his appointees when he took his turn to address the media year in office. Let's hear what the president had to say on this matter.
Every single act of alleged corruption labeled against any member of my administration has been or is in the process of being investigated by independent bodies, and the findings so far made public. From the allegations against the Minister for Energy designate at his parliamentary confirmation hearings, to that against the CEO of BOST, to those against the two deputy chiefs of staff, to the claims of extortion against the trade minister, and to those against the Minister for Special Development Initiatives, they have all been investigated, and no evidence has been adduced to suggest mildly the perpetration of any act of corruption. However, some people appear determined to stick to their politically motivated view that there has been corruption. This surely is not a helpful practice. I have a greater interest in my appointees not being corrupt than any critic could possibly have. Try me. Produce the evidence to back the allegation and see what the reaction will be. But I think it is also worth pointing out that we should be careful about the new trend that appears to be emerging, whereby any allegation, no matter how spurious, quickly gains the character of, quote, a scandal or, quote, an act of corruption, even when it is shot down.
You're still watching Midday Live, and we're going to delve a lot more into this very issue and the Media Foundation for West Africa's take on the president's position on this matter. That is, the worst moment in the president's responses was his attempt to discount or dismiss the ongoing bipartisan investigation into what has become and has been known as the Cash for Seat saga. Suleiman Brahma is Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Good afternoon, and thanks for agreeing to speak with us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Now, what's your take on the president's position on this specific matter, the Cash for Seat saga?
Well, as we have indicated in the statement that we brought out, our view is that was the lowest point in the president's performance, because in a democratic dispensation, we emphasize the independence of the three arms of government. And therefore, in this particular case, if the leadership of parliament, which is one arm of government, felt that based on whatever interrogation they had done, the best way to have the matter resolved is to have a bipartisan committee set up to investigate the matter. Then you have the president almost prejudging or diluting whatever the committee is set out to do. I think, first of all, one can see it as an interference, and secondly, it's something that then tends to dilute the process that the bipartisan investigative committee has started pursuing. Indeed, the question to ask is, if this was a matter before a court, and the president even has an opinion about it, that, well, this is something that will not go anywhere, I don't think that the president would have gone the way he went, because then you would be getting into the area of contempt, and we also know that Parliament has the powers of contempt. So I believe if I were the one who said that, it wouldn't be something that would be taken kindly. And we thought that that was the lowest point in the president's performance yesterday.
All right, well, thank you so much, Suleiman Brahma. He is Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. You're still watching Midday Live, and some journalists who attended the president's second media encounter have described it as underwhelming. President Akufo-Addo's meeting with journalists sought to give stewardship for 12 months in office.
A president unfazed with talks of corruption, despite attempts by his critics to taint him, he says.
To the claims of extortion against the Trade Minister and to those against the Minister for Special Development Initiatives, they have all been investigated, and no evidence has been adduced to suggest mildly perpetration of any act of corruption.
Was it a conspiracy theory?
Is there any way we can have cashew roast?
Questions were thrown at him. Some he answered.
I don't think that incumbency should be an advantage.
Others he appeared not in charge.
The white paper.
What?
The 2014 World Cup. That is the Commission of Inquiry white paper, the report. Mr. President, please, are you interested?
To be honest, I've forgotten about the 2014 white paper.
A walk away from the very first encounter, organizers wanted to give as much opportunity to journalists from across the country the chance to quiz the president.
Hello, Mr. President. I must say you're looking really cool and fresh.
Oh.
Some were fortunate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is...
That's King Edward. Yes, and that is the last question. Thank you very much. I insist.
Others attempted, but they were not given the opportunity.
My question is, this Fulani
President intends to interact with the media twice in every year. The media appeared unsatisfied with the timing, seeking for more from his appointees.
This thing about thrusting microphones in people's heads.
Unprepared to answer, his energy minister was not in the mood as he laments he was ambushed by the journalist. The media certainly is unsatisfied.
Today's encounter is one of the most underwhelming ones I have been. I mean, if you ask me what is the major takeaway, I'll struggle.
I wasn't too happy with his responses. I wasn't satisfied at all, especially about the white paper from the Jamepe Commission report concerning the 2014 World Cup. I thought that, I assumed he would have been very abreast with that, but he admitted that he didn't have all the information.
My problem really is about the kind of questions that were asked. I think that by and large, several people had major issues that they wanted to ask questions about, but the framing of questions ended up being rather too long or rather not being clear. There were a couple of times that the president himself actually had to ask for clarification.
I think that in planning this, if it is a Ministry of Information that is the key planner, they better invite interested parties, maybe the GG, the Editors Forum, and so on and so forth. Then so we have a clear-cut method. If we know that the president will speak for, say, 10 minutes as an intro, we do know, and so on and so forth. But if it is, as you may want to call it, a State of the Nation address in disguise or a budget statement in disguise before the questions follow, I can understand that it disarms certain people.
But the Deputy Minister of Information, Kojo Ponkrumah, explains lessons have been drawn from the second encounter.
If we had a lot more time, we would have had a lot more questions. But within the time frame that we had, within the constraints, we had questions from journalists from all over the country dealing with issues that matter to various parts of the country. I think that this can only get better.
Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
And a senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Professor Jampo, has expressed disgust over the media's performance at the presidential encounter. Most of the questions, he said, were not good enough to pin the president. He thinks it would be more productive if the president interacts directly with the citizenry.
Professor Ransford Jampo was disappointed in the media for their abysmal performance, especially in the line of questioning.
Because apart from a few journalists or media personnel who asked very good questions, the rest were not asking any meaningful question. The questions were so shallow and they were not seasoned with any research, and they were questions that any president could easily answer. And over the years, that has been the trend, and so no president becomes scared of such a platform.
To him, there were more critical issues that needed answers from the president.
The 1992 Constitution is 25 years old. It has undergone a review. We spent huge sums of the taxpayers' money to undergo the review process, to subject that document to review. This administration came in and we don't know what is happening to the Constitution review process. Have we abandoned the process? Is the president doing something about the proposals for reform? What are we doing about it? You expect a journalist who thinks about Ghana to ask this question.
Professor Jampo feels the media failed in representing the people.
Somebody may be born from day one to the time the person will die. He will never have the privilege of meeting the president. And so if you have the privilege to meet the president, then you should be able to ask questions that borders on the lives of people. Again, some people went there with their questions already prepared. And I'm saying, yes, you should conduct research and prepare your question. But if somebody asks a question and the answer that is given is not so convincing, you are required as a smart journalist to shelve your own question, to ask a follow-up question in relation to what has been asked earlier by your colleague, so that you pin the president.
To him, it would serve a better purpose if the program is scrapped.
If you guys would go and indirectly sing his praises, I don't think you are doing a lot of good to Mother Ghana. It's about me, the press, and I'm saying that media people worth their salt must be able to research and ask thought-provoking and scrutinizing questions to subject the president to strict proof, because this is a very credible and serious accountability platform. You guys, you either sit up to seize the opportunity, or let us scrap this whole arrangement and revert to the one that the president would meet the people one-on-one. Because I'm sure if the president go to Makola, he would be able to receive thought-provoking questions regarding issues that border on the lives of the ordinary people.
And still on this issue, let's hit the streets and find out your view on what you think.
Yesterday, the president had an encounter with the media where the media asked the questions which were supposed to reflect the concerns of Ghanaians. Today, on What Do You Think? We find out your impression about the media's performance, and did their questions really reflect your concerns?
Some did, but there were questions that came from some journalists. For instance, someone asked a question like why the president thinks the president of France and other countries will visit Ghana and all of that. There are issues of sanitation, there are issues of certain policies and taxes, health issues that need to be talked about, unemployment that has to be talked about, issues of security. Those are issues that need to be asked, not issues of you are looking handsome and how are you and those things.
Yesterday your question was not asked.
It wasn't asked, so I don't know what happened. So when are we going to get the opportunity to ask him? That's the point, because it has been my problem. If you're a Ghanaian, you are going for a shop and there's a Nigerian, they'll give it to a Nigerian instead of you. And if you go to main central market. The retailers are supposed to be Ghanaians, but right now they are the retailers. They've taken over the shops and they've employed Ghanaians. It looks like everybody comes into Ghana and does anything he wants.
I didn't hear anybody asking about the gay and the lesbian. I don't know whether they asked before I came, but so the time I watched to the end of the program, I didn't hear any journalist asking that question. And then some of the questions he answered wasn't touching.
The time was a little bit shorter from the presidency itself, so I was expecting maybe to take the whole day for the next time.
What do you also think about the president's answers? Did he also do justice to the questions?
Yes, except that it was a little bit too longer. We could have cut it shorter. Next time the president will be on point.
Those were your views on the streets. But away from that story, let's head straight to the courts. And the Director of Legal Division at the NCA, Abena Asafueje, has told the Accra High Court that monies withdrawn from its account used in purchasing cyber security equipment did not have approval of the board. And we do have Salom Amenya to give us updates on this story. Hello, Salam. You've been following the story closely and you're in court. Tell us what the witness has been saying in relation to this very matter.
All right, so today the court began the continuation of the evidence of the first prosecution witness, who happens to be the Director of Legal Division at the NCA, Abena Asafueje. And while she was being led in evidence in chief by the Director for Public Prosecution, Yvonne Atako-Biobisa, Abena Asafueje said that minutes of board meetings during the period of 2015 to date does not show any request and approval of a sort brought before members of the board. So this seeks to suggest that probably the contract between Infralock and also the NCA was not properly documented. And she also added that the only request for external support came from the Communications Ministry, and this was in the regard to some 2.2 million cedis for the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation to purchase some equipment. And she is saying that also this particular contract should have been in the books that were being kept at the legal division, since they are the custodian and also those who draft all contracts for the NCA. And prosecution has been able to end its evidence, and now it is time for cross-examination. And then the counsel for the former board chair of the NCA, Thaddeus Sorry, actually during cross-examination is seeking to suggest to the prosecution witness, that is Abena Asafueje, that she's seeking revenge against the board chair, Eugene Bafuboni, who actually asked her to proceed on a mandatory leave after accumulating 8 months of leave. But this suggestion she has debunked, however, saying that she was on very good terms with the board chair, so there was no need for her to actually do this. She was also asked why she did not report the matter to the procurement authorities, since it was strictly a procurement issue. But she says that she had no knowledge of the contract until investigators actually approached her trying to find out about the contract.
Thank you so much for the update, Salom Amenya. You bring us some more of the story in a subsequent bulletin. To some others, and residents of Zizanya Ayibo in the Ada East district of the Greater Accra region are at risk of water and air pollution following marine diesel spillage into the sea. Dead fishes have washed ashore 2 days after the spillage.
The news team was welcomed with a pungent smell of diesel upon our arrival at Azizanya Aigbo. The smell became stronger as we approached the sea. At the seashore, traces of marine diesel confirmed our earlier report of an oil spillage. According to residents, the impact of the spillage had reduced.
The thing came, that was yesterday midnight to the daytime. And then all of the sudden what we see is it was very black all over the coast, which these people said they can't make fishing.
The dead fish washed ashore perhaps is an indication of the effect of the pollution on aquatic life. But this would not deter children from swimming in the sea. The diesel stains on this boy shows the level of pollution. A similar incident happened 15 years ago in the same area, but for residents here, the situation did not have any significant impact on them.
And when it happens like this, the fishes sink. They go down to the bottom of the sea. They do not come up to make things for us to fish.
Regardless of the possible health impact, fisherfolk had made some catch and the fishmongers were ready to sell them at the market. Some experts from the Environmental Protection Agency were at the scene to ascertain the situation. According to them, investigations into the incident have begun.
The amount of marine diesel that has been discharged offshore could be quite an amount, a great amount, yes. But we believe that with the wave action and the movement of the high tides, it will be washed back into the sea. There's an ongoing meeting between the Ghana Navy, the Ghana Maritime Authority in Tema. So we have picked our initial investigations and we need to hear from the officers on what actually has happened at the other end, then before we can draw up our conclusions.
It is still not clear the source of the tank and the oil spillage, but a report like this raises questions about environmental issues as well as its impact on aquatic life and activities here in the coastal areas.
When humans consume it, it also has an impact on human life. Yes, so we need to actually intensify monitoring and also collaborate closely with the district assembly and all the stakeholders to ensure that these issues or these occurrences do not happen. They can stay away from the place for a while so that the VOCs can evaporate, and then after a while they can start resume their fishing activities.
Officials were unclear when investigations would be concluded, but based on their initial observation, the spillage was not related to the presence of this plastic object at the sea as being speculated. For TV3, Nana Addo, Jenfi.
Here to the Shanti region, where the Squad Juvenile Court has struck out the case involving 5 suspects in the Bonchama gang rape case. Now, the state attorney says one of the suspects is not a juvenile, hence the review. The suspects were discharged on earlier charges of conspiracy to defile and defilement, but were rearrested for trial in the circuit court. Here's a report by Ibrahim Abubakar.
The Asokwa Juvenile Court, presided over by His Worship Peter Opong Boahen, discharged the suspects after the state attorney told the court investigations have revealed one of the suspects is not a minor. This compelled the court to strike out the case because it had no more jurisdiction over the matter. The suspects were quickly rearrested and handed a new charge to be tried in an open court. Counsel for the accused persons, Emmanuel Opoku, insists all his clients are juveniles, since he has not received any document to the contrary. He was not happy with the decision to rearrest his client.
As it is now, no determination has been made as to the age of the children. To us, they are all juveniles and must be tried by the juvenile court. The law they were quoting has in fact been repealed. Now the AG now submit that then they are withdrawing the entire charges against the juveniles. So as it is now, on the basis of withdrawal of the charges, no charge exists against the juveniles.
The state attorney explained the suspect will have to face prosecution in a circuit court because a minor who commits an offence with an adult is tried in an open court. Relatives of the suspects who thronged the court premises to witness the proceedings were disappointed at the turnout of events.
And a lot more on this very issue. 5 suspects involved in this Bonchama gang rape case have appeared before the Kumasi Circuit Court today. Our reporter Ibrahim Abubakar has been following the story and he joins me via phone. Hello, Ibrahim.
Hello, Wendy.
Now, what's the latest on this case?
Well, Wendy, currently the case has been adjourned to 31st of January. In fact, when we came this morning, we thought it would be held in an open court. But then when the case was called, then they went into the judge's chamber in camera. So it just ended, and the prosecutor is not giving us enough details. All that she's telling us is that the case has been adjourned to 31st of January.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Abubakar, for that update. You're still watching Midday Live. We're taking a breather. We'll be back shortly. Do stay. Thanks for staying. The Danish Minister for Development Cooperation, Ulla Tørnæs, says Denmark will continue to aid Ghana in the area on domestic tax revenue mobilization. He gave the assurance on a visit to the Tema port.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has estimated that tax could provide an extra income of around $300 billion if tax collection increased in developing countries by just 1%. This is more than twice the total international official development assistance given to developing countries today. Minister for Development Cooperation Ulla Tørnæs and the Minister for Taxation Carsten Lorentzen paid a 2-day visit to Ghana to learn Ghana's experience in increasing domestically generated revenue. This will help in future Danish efforts to support tax systems in developing countries. At the Tema port, the delegation were taken through some of the processes at the Gateway Services Limited. Minister for Development Cooperation Ulla Tørnæs assured of Denmark's support to Ghana in its tax collection efforts.
Ghana has turned into to become a middle-income country. Through this, I mean, it's absolutely natural that we have changed our partnership and our cooperation, and now we will, in the future, focus more on trade and commercial issues as well as taxation. We have changed from a focus on traditional development aid and assistance to trade relations and political cooperation and partnerships.
The two Danish ministers acquainted themselves with royalties collection from the mining sector. Minister for Taxation Carsten Lorentzen stated some of the revenues from Denmark's oil are put into its social welfare system.
It goes into the state budget, and then it's not being used for anything specific, but it's of course being used for healthcare, for schools, and for our welfare states. And the big difference between, I think, Ghana and Denmark is that we pay a lot more in tax in Denmark. I think we pay a little bit too much.
Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority indicated the visit will have a positive impact of revenue collection.
It allows them to get the sense of what they are doing for us. When I explained about our tax system and the challenges and the way forward and the potential and everything, they came in a record that theirs is no different. So now when we are collaborating with each other, we know the kind of support we may be asking for.
Let's move on to other stories. And the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC Ghana, has asked the Energy Minister to resign or be sacked for not having any solution to stabilize prices at the local pumps.
Fuel prices that used to trade at 4 cedis 49 pesos per litre for both petrol and diesel have seen an increase to above 4 cedis 67 pesos. A difference of about 18 pesos, reflecting in some 4% increase. Price per gallon per the new increases is now 21 cedis from the previous 20 cedis 20 pesos for both petrol and diesel.
The bigger OMCs are themselves also coming out with their own prices the same month. What we have said all along is this: fuel prices cannot continue to be allowed to go up every now and then as it is going. If we do not begin to look at the special petroleum tax component particularly, fuel prices, I'm sorry, will continue to go up in this country.
GPRTU plans to increase transport fares. The outlook for 2018 gives no indication of global prices dropping anywhere below the $40 per barrel mark to bring pump prices down automatically. Executive Secretary COPEC, Duncan Amoah, noted some of the many taxes, particularly the special petroleum tax, should have been reviewed long ago to ease down prices at the point. He suggested some options for the government, including government introducing the dual pricing mechanism, whereby if government gets more revenue from petroleum exports, will use some to cushion petroleum consumers.
To reposition the special petroleum tax from the current ex-depot position to maybe ex-refinery. That will reduce the weight of the taxes on SPT. You could also set SPT to a specific amount, 40 pesos. That way, when international market prices go up, SPT doesn't begin to rise. And then again, you could also ease down on SPT completely. From 15% if you came to 10 or even 7 or 5, I'm sure the impact will be quite manageable on Ghanaians.
You're still watching Business on Midday Live, and some contractors working on projects for the Ghana Education Trust Fund GET Fund have disputed the claims by the president, who mentioned that the monies are being paid. Let's hear the president's.
I'm being urged to pay contractors. I am paying them. In 2017, nearly 1 billion CD, of which the Government of Ghana provided 300 odd million, and the Road Fund provided some 660 million. Of the 1.6 billion owed road contractors was cleared. In January this year, we have dispersed 125 million out of the remainder of 600 million to the contractors. Additionally, we have paid 826 million of the 1.2 billion loan contracted by the previous administration, for which the Road Fund was used as collateral. It is important to note that all these debts were accrued under the previous administration. I will also point out that much of the statutory arrears that we met have been cleared. That is, debts to the NHIS, the District Assembly Common Fund, and the GET Fund.
And Daniel Tano is the head of GET Fund Contractors Association, and he's joining me here in the studio. Good afternoon, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Now, we just heard the president. What do you make of what the president said?
What the president said yesterday...
True or false?
False.
In that?
False in the sense that just a fraction of amount owed GET Fund contractors were paid.
How many contractors are we looking at? You have about 4,000 projects?
4,000 projects. Looking at least 3,500 contractors.
And how many contractors are being paid, as the president said?
Around 600 contractors.
Around 600 contractors?
Yes. About 600 contractors also.
When last did this payment happen?
You know, before the exit of the previous administration, they paid up to June, and then the new administration has paid up to June 2016, and then the new administration have paid up to August, not even all August, just portion of those claims that were sent in August 2016. So they are in arrears from August 2016 up to date.
So since 2016, there hasn't been any payments?
No. Payments were made last year.
Okay.
In 3 tranches. But they were just something small.
Okay, so it means that the president is being honest here when he says that the contractors are being paid.
They were paid a fraction of amount owed contractors.
But so I asked the question whether that was true or false, and you said false. So, and I'm going back to that question.
I said false in the sense that yes, few monies were paid to the contractors, some of the contractors, but large number are still unpaid.
What are you doing to make sure that your monies are being paid?
I think it has become something that the government is always taking advantage of these contractors. As far back as some years, it has been like this, especially with GET Fund contractors.
But the president mentioned that there will be due diligence that might cause some bit of delay. Do you agree to that?
That is up to the president and his team. But what we
do you agree to that?
I agree to that. They can do whatever due diligence they want on the project, and then, but don't also forget, a project was awarded to a contractor. He has done the project, some to the finishing level, some are on the window level and whatever. So claims are prepared and sent to Get Fund for payment. Now, in the contract document, you are the government is supposed to pay any contractor who submits his or her claim within 60 days.
Now, if I can rudely cut you in there, what next for you to make sure that your monies are paid?
So, like I was saying, it has been the habit of all the presidents, all the administrations. I quite remember very well the last administration. We had to push. Anytime contractors get paid, there should be a sort of other, what is it called?
That's what I'm asking. What are you doing? What are you?
Yes, so we are on Tuesday, 23rd of this month. We have given a notice to the administrator to at least meet him in his office and find out why we are still not paid. And then if it would, the next action will depend on what the administrator will tell us from there. And to add to this, I think Get Fund contractors are not being treated fairly.
Thank you so much, Daniel Tano. He is the head Get Fund Contractors Association. That'll be all for business this afternoon. Next, we have international news. We go for the story now. U.S. President Donald Trump's view on Mexico border will have evolved, says his chief of staff, John Kelly, speaking to Fox News. Mr. Kelly also did not deny reports that he had described the president's uninformed when he made a campaign promise about the war. The comments were overheard during an immigration meeting on Wednesday, according to U.S. media. On a roll on immigration between lawmakers and the White House is currently risking a federal government shutdown. We now go for entertainment.
Entertainment news is brought to you by
And Lebanon's authorities have ordered a ban on the movie The Post. The movie, which was directed by Jewish-American Steven Spielberg, joins the numerous others which have received a red flag from the Arab nation's censorship authority as a result of parts of production associations in Israel.
Do you have the papers?
Not yet.
Steven Spielberg's movie, The Post, has been banned from being shown in Lebanon. Cinemas around Beirut have taken down the posters promoting the film, which was set to premiere on Thursday. In 2006, it was discovered that Spielberg was blacklisted by the Arab League for donating $1 billion to Israel for reconstruction during its war with Lebanon. Last year, Lebanese authorities banned Marvel's Wonder Woman hours before it was due to be premiered, following a campaign against its lead actress Gal Gadot, who served in the Israeli army. Lebanon is officially at war with Israel, and Lebanese laws bans its citizens from visiting Israel or having business dealings with Israelis. But General Security and its censorship bureau have been inconsistent in their application of a cultural boycott. Several previous Spielberg films have played in Lebanon, including The Adventures of Tintin, The BFG, and Bridge of Spies. Critics are therefore arguing that the ban of The Post is more about banning what the movie stands for: press freedom. The Post, starring Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks, tells the story of the then Washington Post publisher Katharine Graham's decision to defy attempts by the U.S. government to suppress publication of the Pentagon Papers. The movie idolizes journalists who stand up to the powers that be when they go wrong and choose truth and justice over government bullying.
About exposing years of government secrets.
Is that legal?
What is it you think we do here for a living, kid?
And to some other entertainment news, in the aftermath of Hollywood's campaign against sexual abuse, more actors are adding their voice to how Hollywood can present an equal playing field for men and women.
Actress Diane Kruger says Hollywood's Me Too movement has scared powerful men. The Me Too campaign was launched shortly after heavyweight director Harvey Weinstein was slammed with sexual harassment and rape allegations. Kruger says the progress made since the scandal shook Hollywood might be fleeting if the culture does not change with it. The actress said, "I'm afraid that in 6 months or a year or even 10 years, we will still be hearing the same thing." The German-born star also touched on the issue of pay disparities in Hollywood. "I have never been paid the same as a man I'm playing opposite. That is not right." Still on the culture of sexual misconduct in Hollywood, legendary actress Sharon Stone laughed out loud for a full 10 seconds when asked by CBS's Lee Cohen if she ever experienced inappropriate behavior during her time in Hollywood. Looking Cohen dead in the eye, Sharon Stone replied,
"I've been in this business for 40 years, Lee. Can you imagine the business I stepped into 40 years ago? Looking like I look, from nowhere, Pennsylvania. I didn't come here with any protection. I've seen it all."
Speaking on the conduct of Hollywood when she started, Stone said,
"We were raised to accommodate men, and women so often lose their own identity to the identity of the men that they're with. They even change the way they dress and what they do to fit to the men that they're with."
Stone is a supporter of the Time's Up movement, and like many of her peers, she wore black in solidarity at the 2018 Golden Globes.
We're starting to acknowledge our own gifts as women and not think that we have to behave as men in order to be empowered or powerful or valuable.
And that will be all for this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching Midday Live. My name is Wendy Lai. Do have a lovely afternoon. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of our programs.